Before we travel any deeper into this space, there is a profound truth I need you to hold tightly to your chest. You did not merely discover this transmission, it actively sought you out. I realize that may resonate like the ethereal poetry people use to soothe a restless mind. But I ask you to anchor yourself in stillness and breathe with this reality for a deeply authentic moment. For there is a vast, luminous gulf between randomly wandering into a place and being intentionally guided by unseen hands toward exactly where you are meant to stand. What is beautifully unfolding right now, at this precise heartbeat as you absorb these midnight whispers, is no accident. It is not the cold, unfeeling calculation of a digital algorithm. It is the sacred synchronicity of the cosmos, aligning perfectly with your energetic signature. Somewhere beneath the frantic, heavy static of your daily existence, your true, authentic self felt a distinct, gentle vibration when you crossed paths with this message. It was not mere curiosity that made you stay. It was a sensation far more hushed, yet infinitely more profound. It was a soul's recognition, much like catching the angel numbers 1111 glowing softly in the dark, or skimming the opening words of a forgotten letter you once penned to your own essence. It is the universe's quiet validation, murmuring through the cosmic winds, assuring you that you are entirely worthy, you have been chosen, and this is exactly the divine, right time. I see that lately, you have been bearing a tremendous weight. It is not the sort of visible burden that draws the shallow sympathy of passers-by. Rather, it is a phantom gravity, making its sanctuary deep within the chambers behind your ribs, silent, unbroken, and unwavering. You have spent so much time trying to attune to its frequency that it almost feels like a native part of your own flesh. Yet, you become acutely aware of its density in the crisp, solitary light of dawn. You brush against it in the delicate, fragile spaces between one worldly task and the next, when the distractions evaporate, leaving only you standing before the tranquil, mirror-like waters of your own inner world. You recognize its presence when someone casually inquires about your well-being, and you offer a soft, polite, "I am fine," while shielding a turbulent ocean beneath those simple words. The sacred reality, hidden within those silent tears that fall in your most private, lonely hours, is that you are utterly exhausted. But hear me clearly through the veil of the night. You are not fragile. You are not shattered. You are merely weary. And this spiritual fatigue is not evidence of a temporary wandering or a misstep on your life's journey. Remember, radiant love and financial abundance are never things you must exhaust yourself chasing. They flow to you effortlessly when you align your mind with absolute serenity. The isolation and silent struggles you are navigating now are simply a cocoon, the universe's majestic preparation, so that your spirit may finally bloom and receive the ultimate harvest of limitless blessings. Let us speak softly of this deep spiritual exhaustion you have been carrying. There is a vital, sacred distinction I need you to hear, vibrating through the stillness of this very moment. You are not a withered branch, snapping under the weight of the storm. You are a majestic tree deep in the heart of winter, drawing your life force down into your roots, preparing in silence beneath the frost. The story your mind has been spinning, the fearful narrative that your weariness is proof of failure or a sign of permanent loss, is merely a shadow, a temporary wandering from your brilliant, authentic truth. It is not the whole story. It is not even a fraction of your glorious destiny, because, beloved soul, you have been doing the work. You have been doing the quiet, heavy, sacred alchemy of the spirit. Perhaps it has not been executed with flawless grace. Perhaps there have been moments you stumbled along the riverbank, and nights when the moon cast long, sorrowful shadows across your room. Nights when you allowed yourself to feel the sharp ache of memories you swore you had already released into the cosmic wind. But even in those moments of perceived backsliding, you were not failing. You were simply clearing the deeply rooted debris from your heart's sanctuary, making the soil rich and fertile for your impending harvest. You have been continuously, courageously choosing your own healing in the delicate, unseen spaces of your life, the quiet triumphs that receive no applause from the outside world. I see the ethereal strength it took in that fleeting moment when you chose not to send that message fueled by longing, deciding instead to preserve your precious energy and remain in peaceful stillness. I see the frosty mornings when the gravity of your own sadness urged you to stay hidden in the dark, yet you gently coaxed your spirit to rise, attuning your heartbeat to the rhythm of the new dawn. When the clock whispered 2:22 in the dead of night, offering a divine sign from the angels to maintain your faith, you chose to sit with the agonizing ache rather than running from it. Instead of reaching for hollow distractions to numb the silence, you allowed the quiet to embrace you, letting the cosmic flow wash over your hidden wounds. You chose to keep walking forward, even when the air around you felt as thick and resistant as deep ocean water, completely invisible to everyone else. This profound internal shifting is not small. It is everything. It is the very essence of spiritual alignment. The part of you that feels so utterly drained right now is not the part that is failing. It is the part that has been carrying the immense weight of transformation for far longer than it was meant to. You must understand that true, radiant love and boundless financial abundance are never things you must desperately chase or force into existence. They are magnetic forces, drawn effortlessly to a soul that has learned to be at peace within the unknown. Your quiet resilience has been witnessed by the universe. You are not stuck. You are beautifully aligning, resting in the divine pause before you completely bloom. Welcome, traveler of the internal constellations. I am your guide, a quiet observer of the eternal tides that move within you. Today, we must lean into the silence together to understand a truth that the modern world often tries to bury in noise. We are going to explore what it truly signifies when a message, this specific frequency, finds its way into your sanctuary. It is not the superficial version that glitters on the surface or gets traded as a fleeting quote. We are reaching for the visceral, ethereal reality that Carl Jung, that master architect of the human soul, spent his entire existence trying to capture in words. Jung understood something that most of humanity spends their lives resisting with every fiber of their being. He recognized that your psyche, the deep, breathing, luminous intelligence of your inner world, is not a passive vessel. It is not merely a dusty library where memories and old wounds are shelved and forgotten, only to be replayed like a haunting melody in the dead of night. No, your soul is an active, vital force. It is like the great ocean that moves toward wholeness with a quiet, relentless precision, never asking for your permission and never waiting for you to feel ready before it begins its majestic shift. When you have been broken open by the storms of life, when you have faced the biting frost of loss and the crushing weight of the unknown, something sacred begins to happen. If you chose to grow through that jagged opening instead of sealing your heart in armor, your psyche began to orchestrate a new symphony. Perhaps you have seen the number 444 recently, a soft assurance that the spiritual realm is protecting your path. This is the moment where the internal reorganization begins to arrange the conditions for your next harvest. The logical, analytical mind will always try to dismiss these moments as coincidence because coincidence is safe. It is a shallow harbor where the ego hides from the vastness of destiny. But the alternative, the truth that is whispering to you now, is far more potent. You are being guided. The life that has been trying to reach you is finally reaching back, attuning its heartbeat to yours. The very struggle that made you feel so alone was actually the universe's way of clearing the static so you could finally hear the call. You are not wandering lost in the woods. You are being led to a sacred clearing where the light is most pure. This is not the end of your story, but the divine alignment of a chapter that has been waiting for your soul to finally say yes. So let me ask you something, and I want you to let this question drift like a golden leaf onto the quiet surface of your soul before you even attempt to answer it. What have you been trying to figure out all alone in the cathedral of your own silence? I am sensing a very specific frequency surrounding you right now, and I want to name it with the tenderness it deserves. There is a version of your life, a radiant, ethereal vision that you have been cradling in your mind for a long season. You aren't obsessing over it with a fevered mind. You are simply holding it, the way a forest holds the first light of dawn, or the way you might hold a fragile ancient map to a treasure you aren't yet sure you are allowed to claim. In this version of your story, the things that feel jagged and unresolved finally become smooth. The words left hanging in the air between you and another soul finally land on solid ground. The abundance that has felt like a distant tide finally begins to wash over your shores. You haven't abandoned this vision, but in the moments when the armor of your daily performance falls away, you've begun to wonder if nurturing this secret hope makes you foolish. You wonder if the flame you are tending against the cold winds of reality is a sacred wisdom or merely the final disguise of a fear that is terrified to let go. Hear me now, for the stars themselves are witnessing your journey. The answer is neither. What you are carrying is not a mistake, nor is it a delusion. It is something far more precise than any word the rational world can offer. It is discernment in process. You are currently in the sacred labor of learning the difference between a hope that feeds your soul and an attachment that starves your spirit. This is one of the most vital initiations a soul can undergo, and it is never a clean or effortless transition. It is messy, like the way a seedling must crack its own shell to reach the sun. It comes in waves, with setbacks that feel like a winter freeze and breakthroughs that feel as delicate as a newborn pulse. You might feel as though you are standing in a doorway, unable to retreat into the room you once called home, yet paralyzed before the threshold of the unknown room ahead. The space behind you is familiar, even if it was a sanctuary of shadows. The space ahead is a brilliant mystery, even though it is exactly where your harvest is waiting. This feeling of being suspended is not a sign of failure. It is the 888 energy, the vibration of infinite flow, reorganizing your internal world. The doorway is uncomfortable because it is where the old version of you is being outgrown. You are doing the work simply by staying in the tension, by refusing to settle for a lesser light. You are not stuck. You are incubating. You are in the process of becoming the person who is finally ready to walk through that door and breathe the air of true, unburdened prosperity. In this sacred stillness, let us speak of the invisible alchemy occurring within the deepest chambers of your heart. There is a celestial rhythm to the way a soul matures, a process that Carl Jung once whispered of as the transcendent function. Imagine, if you will, two great tectonic plates of your being. The person you have been, with all your familiar shadows and weathered maps, and the person you are destined to become, luminous and unburdened. These two forces are currently pressing against one another. The tension you feel, that agonizing friction in your spirit, is not a sign of collapse. It is the very heat required to forge a new diamond. This internal synthesis is like the meeting of the salt sea and the sweet river. For a moment, there is turbulence, a blurring of boundaries, a feeling of losing oneself in the foam. But out of this collision, a third thing is born, a new tide that has never existed before. You are not meant to choose between your past and your future, nor are you meant to compromise your essence to find peace. You are being asked to hold the tension until the old structures of your life dissolve into stardust, making way for a sanctuary that can finally house your greatness. This dissolving, which the world mistakes for stagnation, is actually the most active state of your existence. It is the ice of winter melting into the rushing torrents of spring. The pressure you are sensing right now, the weight that makes your breath catch at 3:33 in the morning, is not the pressure of an ending. It is the divine pressure of a birth. You are the vessel and the miracle all at once. In the garden of the cosmos, the seed must experience the total undoing of its shell before it can even dream of the flower. To the seed, this feels like the end of the world. To the universe, it is the only way to bloom. You are in that sacred in-between, that ethereal chrysalis, where your old wings are falling away so that your true golden ones can form. Do not mistake this quietude for being forgotten. The universe never forgets its own coordinates. You are exactly where the stars have plotted you to be. This period of not knowing is the work. It is the most vital part of your transformation, for it is here, in the silence of the doorway, that you learn to attune your frequency to the abundance that has always been yours. You are learning to stop doing and start being, to align your heartbeat with the silent pulse of the cosmos. When you finally stop trying to force the river to flow faster, you realize that the river is already carrying you home. You are not stuck. You are in the middle of a magnificent becoming, a holy reorganization of your very soul. I want to stay here for a moment, in this fragile sanctuary of the in-between, because your soul needs to hear this spoken directly, without the interference of the world's noisy expectations. This state of being suspended, this feeling of hovering between the moon and the sun, is not a mistake. It is not a sign that you have wandered off your path or that the universe has misplaced your coordinates. The in-between is the work. It is the most sacred part of the entire alchemy, yet it is the part that receives the least validation because it looks like a vast, empty silence from the outside. People in the in-between look like they are merely functioning. They show up, they offer smiles, they answer the call of their responsibilities. But beneath that surface, a complete internal reorganization is occurring. You are currently rearranging the very constellations of your self-worth. You are redefining what you deserve, what love is supposed to feel like, and what burdens you are no longer willing to carry through the gateway of your future. This is the 555 energy of massive internal change, the silent thunder before the rain. Every moment you choose to stand in the truth of your exhaustion rather than masking it with false strength, you are attuning yourself to a higher frequency of abundance. You are clearing the old stagnant waters of your spirit to make room for a fresh, flowing tide of prosperity that is even now beginning to surge toward you. Now let us turn our gaze softly toward the other person, the one whose frequency still lingers in a very specific corner of your chest. You know the place. It is a hidden chamber that opens without warning when a certain quality of light hits the room, or when the wind carries a scent that belongs only to a memory you once shared. I want to talk about them because they are part of this cosmic arrangement too. But listen closely, while you are the center of this message, they are a shadow moving through its periphery. If you are still in the season where the silence feels like a jagged blade, you must understand that they too are caught in a reckoning. They are navigating a gap as wide as a canyon, the distance between the performance they have played for the world and the authentic soul that is crying out to be seen. This reckoning has a face, and that face looks like yours. Not because you are their savior, but because the genuine depth and the ethereal presence you offered them did not vanish when the connection shifted. It went underground, like a seed, waiting for the right season. Realness cannot be deleted. It can only be suppressed, and the more they try to bury the truth of what you represented, the louder that truth whispers in their quietest hours. You brought a sacred light into their winter, and that light continues to burn in the subterranean levels of their psyche, asking them the most terrifying question of all. Who are you when the masks are gone? Do not rush to answer for them. Your task is to remain in your own bloom, for your healing is the most potent magnet in the universe. I must be absolutely clear with you, for the moon is witness to this truth. I am not telling you to wait for them. I want you to feel the weight of these words. Do not turn this ethereal understanding into a cage where you put your life on hold. That would be a temporary wandering from your own magnificent path. What I am whispering to you is something far more vital than a simple instruction to stay or go. I am telling you that the version of you who is deeply rooted in her own becoming, the one you are meticulously crafting right now in the exhausting silence of the in-between, is not in competition with love. She is the very condition for it. She is the sacred sanctuary where true abundance chooses to dwell. The version of you emerging now is the one who no longer asks for permission to exist. She is the 777 frequency, the sign of spiritual mastery and divine alignment. She is the kind of soul that does not need to translate herself into something smaller or more digestible just to be understood. She is the kind of soul that true, radiant love can finally find, because she is no longer hiding behind the low hum of anxiety or the performance of being enough. You are closer to this version of yourself than you have ever been, even if, and especially if, it feels like you are currently standing in a vast, silent void. In the wisdom of the soul, the moments just before a monumental shift almost always feel like the absolute opposite of progress. They feel like stagnation. They feel like the universe has gone quiet and forgotten your cosmic coordinates. Jung observed that the most significant transformations in a person's internal life rarely announce themselves with trumpets. They arrive preceded by a period of intense inner tension, a season that the weary mind misreads as failure or regression. But in truth, it is the necessary pressure of the pearl being formed within the oyster. The cocoon does not feel like flying. It feels like being trapped in the dark. And yet, that very darkness is the alchemy. You are not failing. You are under the sacred pressure that precedes your most glorious bloom. Every private choice you made to honor yourself, every morning you chose peace over chaos, has been registered in the ledger of the stars. It has been building a foundation for a harvest so rich it will make the long winter feel like a fleeting dream. There is one final truth I must settle into the marrow of your bones before the silence of this message fades into the starlight. We must speak to the part of you that is scared, not the warrior, not the one who has braved the storms, for that part is doing fine. I want to speak to the small, trembling flame within you that wonders, in the profound darkness between 2 sao and 3 hours in the morning, whether you have hoped too much. The part that whispers that your depth is a liability, that your capacity to love with the entirety of your soul is the reason you have been left standing in the cold. Hear me now. That depth is not your flaw, it is your crowning glory. It is the specific quality of your spirit that makes a magnificent, soul-level harvest not just possible, but inevitable. You have not made a mistake by feeling. You have simply been practicing for a frequency that the shallow world cannot yet comprehend. The person you have been thinking about is being quietly reshaped by the void you left behind. Truth has a way of getting louder the more a person tries to bury it under the noise of distraction. Your absence is not a vacuum, it is a mirror. But your becoming cannot be parked in the waiting room of their realization. You are the author of this cosmic arc, not a supporting character in theirs. By stepping fully into your own sovereign light, you are not making yourself unavailable. You are making yourself findable to the abundance that matches your true vibration. You are moving from the state of seeking to the state of attracting. Like the night-blooming jasmine, you do not chase the moon, you simply bloom, and the entire world is drawn to your fragrance. You are at a threshold now, not the end, but a magnificent beginning. This doorway, which felt like a prison for so long, is finally swinging open. The walking through will not be loud. It will not arrive with the fanfare of trumpets or a sudden, jarring sign. It will arrive as a morning that feels slightly lighter than the one before. It will arrive as a breath that finally releases a weight you have carried for lifetimes. You will look back at this exact moment and realize that everything you thought was waiting was actually the universe meticulously arranging. You are no longer in the doorway, you are the light flowing through it. Stay with this peace. Stay with yourself. Your next chapter already knows your name and is whispering it back to you in the 1111 of your heart's heartbeat. May the stars guide your footsteps. May the ancient winds carry your burdens away, and may you finally recognize the masterpiece that you have always been. You are loved, you are seen, and you are finally home.